All right, good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for joining the Royal We on a Monday night. This is the Royal We Live. I'm going to wait a few seconds just to allow some people to jump on this Monday evening. I hope you guys had a fantastic weekend. I'm going to fine tune some things, make sure that everything is set up for tonight's Narcissistic Abuse Support Group. I want to thank you guys once again for being here. Hi, Taylor. Hi, Tanya. When he returns soon. Good evening, Blue. How are you guys? I do have some exciting new things to talk about with you, some new things to share with you. I'm excited to go over some of the new changes. Hi, Katie. Hi, Will. What's going on, man? Hi, Tamara. Hey, Kevy. In God trust. I trust. Free to be. How are you? Julia. Revived Lady. Hey, Michael. Hi, Susie. There you guys are. How is everybody? How have you guys been this weekend? I hope you guys had a great and fantastic weekend. I do have some things that I want to go ahead and share with you guys, and then we will get started. I got a call from California. I'm going to ask caller from California just to wait on hold just briefly while I just go over the very beginning of this this program, which is just basically the warning. I just want to go over the warning with you guys before we get started with the telephone calls tonight. I want to thank you guys for being here. First of all, for those of you who are new to the Royal We, welcome to the Royal We Live Narcissistic Abuse Support. I want to encourage you to subscribe if you're not already a subscriber. If you are a subscriber, go ahead and hit the bell notification. That will set a reminder for you whenever there is a live stream in case you fall asleep, because it is late in most parts. It will also notify you of when I upload brand new content and new videos. Finally, connect, guys. Make that telephone call. I know it's not always easy to make the call, but that's why we're here, so that you can articulate the abuse and the questions that you have regarding narcissistic abuse. And your questions help other people never forget that. So the questions you have about narcissistic abuse are super important. Guys, I want to let you know that viewer discretion is advised before we take this telephone call. This is 18 plus content because we are going to be talking about narcissistic abuse, issues regarding domestic violence, and possibly even sexually explicit material. So viewer discretion is advised, guys. And now I'm going to go ahead and start with this first phone call, and I'll introduce some of the new things as we go on throughout the show. Caller from California, you're live on the Royal We. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. Do I say my name's Julie,
Hi, Julie.
and hey, I'm kind of a fairly new listener. I guess I've been listening for about the last month or so,
Okay, thank you.
and the reason why I'm calling and the question that I have is I was in I've been married for 15 years to what I have recently. I, I don't know that he's a full blown narcissist, but he has he's very high on the narcissistic scale, like for narcissistic traits, and um,
What do you mean? What are some of the traits
so
you're talking about?
so he he is very self focused. He absolutely does he did the love bombing. We were married very quickly within 6 months of dating.
That's fast.
He's very much a user. Like, he uses people to meet his own needs, but he has that very he's also very like serving and giving, and so it was really hard to see those things in the beginning. And there was, when we first got together after the love bombing stopped, it turned into like a lot of control, and there was a lot of violence in our relationship in the beginning. Now, he did make changes to those things, right? So we were together. I've been discarded twice now. The last discard was he moved out in November. The first discard was right after I had our daughter. Um, she was an infant, and I found out about a lot of him talking to other women while we were, together. And he would come home and he would, what I now know as triangulation, he would tell me, like, I stopped to talk to this woman and she was very attracted to me. And, it kind of seemed like at the time when we after the discard and he came back, it seemed like it was just like sexual addiction, right? And
Yeah.
so he was going to go to treatment for that.
I want to make
And he
note of
did.
I want to make note of something real quick, because you really hit on something that's important that it doesn't get talked about enough, and this is the whole concept of triangulation. Because a lot of people are wondering what exactly triangulation is, and you brought up an excellent point. A lot of people think triangulation means strictly that you're getting somebody else pinned against you, or that they're talking about you behind your back with other people, and that's not necessarily true. Triangulation is also, as you described, just talking with other people and creating a jealousy, doing it in a way that's making
Yeah.
you feel jealous. So, in other words, and this is for the community at large, so you can get an understanding of this. If you have a narcissistically abusive person that you're dealing with in your life, and they're coming to you in a way that is boasting about a relationship with somebody else, that can be a form of triangulation, because it's essentially making two of them kind of against you in your own mind and in your own heart. It takes a lot of strength inside of you to be able to deconstruct that, right? But go ahead and continue. I just
Yeah.
want to say that's a great thing
No worries.
yeah.
And that's actually something that really continued, was that, and what led me to like recognize these things is that there was always constantly, even after he came back, even after he sought treatment for his addiction, which he did well in, he just shifted from, the sexual addiction to always hanging, the threat of him leaving over my head. So once a month it was, he knew that like my issue was abandonment based on when the first time he left me,
And
right?
so
Left me
he
with an infant.
he continued to triangulate you with this idea of
Yes,
leaving you. So I hope the
right.
community understands that too, that you can be triangulated with a looming threat, and that's a lot of times what narcissistically abusive people will do. They'll threaten you with some form of punishment that is kind of attached to a form of jealousy, because they know what hurts you. In this case, it's your abandonment you're talking about, and so he
Hmm.
triangulated you with that threat of abandonment. That's
Right.
really pretty manipulative and very, very sad, and it's very hard to deal with.
It's, right. And so that's kind of, it's always been the threat to get me into line, right? Because
Right.
the physical abuse had to stop, right?
Right.
The the sexual acting out had to stop for him to come home, right? And so then and it was very hard for me to recognize. He just shifted. He was like, if you don't meet my needs, this is what's going to happen. He would say, I'm a perfect candidate for an affair, and it was always this, it was never a person. It was just this looming threat, right? And so when he discarded, like I was, again in November, I've been left broken. And so I keep going through this phase of like, he's saying, I'm going to file for divorce. And, he's just like shutting everything down. And yet, like, I don't have any boundaries. I still have that addiction mentality of like, I feel like I have a need for him. 15 years of going through that. Like, I want my fix, and my fix is for him to say everything's okay. So he would tell me, he would threaten me, and then he would come back and he'd be like, what, Julie, you're still my girl. You know, you're still my girl, and we're
Right.
going to get through this and we're going to make it right.
It's
And that was kind of like the easing of the pain, right? And so I'm
Dr.
waiting, I'm
Jekyll.
longing for that
Yeah,
easing. Right.
it's the Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. I mean, and they're masters of that, and it's very disturbing, because they'll flip out and totally just tear you down one moment, and then the next moment give you a little something that feels good, you know. And this is how they keep you. And I actually made a video about this, and the name of it escapes me, but they did testing on pigeons, and it's called Skinner's box, and it's a basic part of instinct. And what they did with these birds is they allowed them to peck a feeder. And what they discovered is that if the bird pecks the feeder and it gives them a pellet of food every time, the bird will get full and leave. If they peck the feeder and nothing comes out, well, the bird will get disinterested and will go away. But they found out if it's erratic, meaning the bird pecks and sometimes it gives them a little bit and sometimes it doesn't, they discovered that that bird by instinct will sit there and peck just relentlessly, nonstop, like it's an addiction because it didn't know when it was going to get its next pellet. And I know we're not birds, but I made a video talking about this because narcissists do the same.
That's how I feel.
They do the same thing. They get us in this place where we're pecking, and in which case we're addicted. We're going into them. We're doing what they want. We're giving them. We're satisfying their needs, waiting for the next erratic them to let go of something that we can eat erratically, right? And it keeps you right there. It's very, it's the schedule of reinforcement. Thank you for posting that. Somebody posted it in the chat, the narcissistic abuse schedule of reinforcement. That's what it is. And that's what this caller is describing perfectly, is that this abusive narcissist has had her in a schedule of reinforcement for 15 years, guys. Very, very. And one of the, and I'm going to tell you, I'm going to blow the lid off the video. I encourage you to watch it, but here's the truth. If the bird only knew that it can fly away, rip that roof right open, and take off, there is plenty of food out there for the bird. And that's something, unfortunately, in the test, the birds were in a cage, but you and I are not in cages. So at any time, we can get away from that erratic little pellet drop that the narcissist gives us, and we can get the heck out where there's plenty of food, where there's plenty of love, where there's plenty of respect, where there's plenty of value, but we have to get out of that relationship in order to get to that.
Okay.
Are you there? Did I hit a nerve?
No. I'm here. I'm just letting it soak in. I mean, honestly, that when you brought up the bird just sitting there pecking, that's how I feel, because I'm like, wait. 1 minute I'm like, okay, you know what, Julie, you're gonna be good. You're good. You could do whatever you want, And then I look at my daughter, who's 14, loves her dad to death, and and he's a fairly decent parent. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I'm like, I'm sitting there like, no. You come, you want to come home, right? And it's funny because my first statement was that he's a user, right? And for the last 15 years, I've been supporting him, helping him get up on his feet, and he's done really well. And just probably 2017-ish, he started doing better than me. And once you're better than me, like, he needs an upgrade, right? And that's kind of what what happened the first time, and it really helps me to see, like, but I don't know how to set those low contact boundaries, because obviously we need to communicate with, for the sake of my daughter.
I can help you out here. Well, here's some basic things.
That's really what I need.
Okay, so some basic things right here in this situation, right? You're talking about low contact. Right. So I don't catch that you are pushing for divorce at this point. Is that what you're saying?
He is.
He's pushing for divorce. Okay.
He's pressing for divorce.
Then
he wants to pursue his business full bore.
Then let him do it. Let him do it. Let him go. Let him go. And here's the mentality you have to have, and this is what you have to know. At this point in time, is it safe to say that he's having affairs and all kinds of stuff already? Or
no.
He has? Oh, he hasn't.
Not that I know of.
So it's only been threats. So it's been
right
threats
now
only.
Is money.
Okay.
It's all been. So there was several years ago, 12 years ago, right?
Okay.
A lot. There has been pornography in the last 2 years, like heavily. I found probably hundreds of pictures on his phone, and confronted him about it.
Okay.
So I think that's been his fix.
Right.
Now, since we've been separated since November, I don't know.
Well, so what I would do, you're soft,
I'm not done,
right?
But.
So your soft no contact looks like this. Allow him to. Let him do what he's going to do. If he wants to file for divorce, one thing, don't be afraid, because you have to realize again that for 15 years you have been a bird in that cage pecking for that pellet, right? And you don't deserve to be in a cage like that. You are free to fly. And so you've got to allow this person to take himself out, okay, of the situation. But in order to allow this to happen, I would go ahead and start setting up boundaries. So obviously, if he's not giving you the attention and the love and he's not valuing you, then he has really no rights to you, right? So I would immediately, what it looks like for you is I would immediately stop things like the sex, stop doing the things that he would normally expect you to do by holding and threatening things over you. So when he would come to you and say, I'm a prime candidate to have an affair or whatever, unless you give me some sex right now, you just simply say, no, that's not going to happen. Go do what you're going to do, right? You've got to be able to shut down. Don't react and give somebody, even your husband, something out of jealousy, because that's not what your relationship with your husband's supposed to be like. You're supposed to give something out of
Right.
love because you want to, because you honor, because you love him, because you know what I mean, because he is your man, he's your provider, he builds you up, and so you satisfy his needs as well, right? But if that's not happening, then don't allow him to steal it from you, which is basically what he's been doing. He's robbing you of your love. He's taking it from you by force, by threat, and don't allow that anymore. You have every right to just say no and learn the power of saying no. And I would say that's just a good start. Self boundaries. Say no when things aren't being equal in the relationship. And that's a good place to start. And that may lead him and push him further to actually take these steps of things that he's been threatening to do and let him, because you need to see exactly what type of person he is. Okay.
Right.
So, and in
And
all
one of
that,
the craziest
yeah.
things that, like, as far as boundaries go, so, he's told me, like, I'm psycho, like, I'm jealous. I'm always asking, like, who he's talking to. So he'll initiate, like, hanging over I'm a candidate for an affair. And then I'll be like, well, with who? Right. So if I text him and he doesn't text me back, and I'm like, hey, why aren't you responding? This is regarding our daughter. And so one day I didn't respond for probably, I don't know, a few hours to him. And I was in my bathroom and I was in my bathtub with my head, like, sunk in, and I'm just relaxing. I'm listening to music and I hear like a knock and I'm like, no way. Sure as the sky is blue, he walked into my house, walked into my bathroom, and told me to cover myself so he could talk to me. Like, and I didn't even realize, like,
Yeah, it just
that's
sounds,
a problem
it sounds
until like
wild.
4 hours later. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? I'm like, 4 hours later, I was like, if I would have showed up at where he's staying,
Yeah.
walked through the front door and into his bathroom because he didn't answer me,
Right.
like, he would
Right.
have drugged me down the stairs.
Probably. Well, it sounds like you're in a yeah, it sounds like you're in a you're in a peculiar situation, but it's important for you to know and understand your addictive part of it, your instinctual addictive part of it, and try to get to the root of this, right? This push pull, erratic bits of love that you have grown so used to getting and that you almost have a need for, and that you're
Right.
hungry for, right? Because you're again, I want you to and watch that video. It was posted by one of the moderators. They posted that video. Watch it, and because and follow up on that, and realize at the end of this whole thing that you are not a bird in a cage. You do not have to stay in that situation, right? You can fly out, and so part of that is learning these boundaries and being able to say no. Okay, and then stay in the
I
community,
appreciate it.
because I'm sure they have fantastic information for you as well, and here in the community, and they'd love to chat with you. So thank you for calling, and I
Appreciate it.
appreciate it. Thank you
Thank you.
so much.
Have a good.
Alrighty, bye.
Uh-huh.
All right, guys, that was a great explanation, and I'm really proud of the caller. And by the way, the phone line is back open, for being able to identify triangulation in a way that most people in these situations don't understand triangulation. In this case, she was being triangulated by these threats constantly by her husband, who would threaten that he can leave, threaten that he would have an affair, threaten that, you know what I mean, creating this boastful idea that he's got other things, and this creates triangulation. But it doesn't have to be even an affair or another person. Triangulation can also be created by work, by money. If you notice, she also said that later on it became an issue of money. He was more wanting to get money and success and this, that, this and that can also cause triangulation, right? And especially if it's used, we're not talking about a healthy way of, hun, I need your support because I want to become successful. We're talking about a way in which he's saying, I don't need you anymore because I got this. And when you live under that kind of threat, they can keep that control over you and get you to basically do whatever they want you to do, just like you're like that bird in Skinner's box, just pecking away for a pellet. So it's important to understand that. And so I want to thank the moderators for going ahead and putting the videos out there. Moderators that we have available that are out there tonight. I saw Blue. Blue, thank you so much. Blue is an amazing help for this show. She is constantly being able to quickly find videos, and you'll see her put the videos up there for you guys to watch. We got a call from New Mexico. Hold on one second. I want to just introduce the other moderator. We also have Taylor Zabel. Taylor Zabel is another fantastic moderator. She's here to help you guys out in any way that you guys need help. Taylor, thank you so much for being here. Also, you may see For Justice and Truth. She's also in. She pops in every now and then. Just excellent people to talk to. I'm so thankful for them. We're going to go ahead and take this telephone call from New Mexico. You're live on the Royal We.
Hi, Kevin.
Hi.
Hi, my name is Kat. I just wanted to make a comment about post-narcissistic experience. I'm now in the stage where I'm recovering and feeling better about everything, going to get a new job and everything. But here's the experience that I had with somebody that I met at a gas station, and right away he engaged with me in conversation, and I asked him if he was single, and he says, "Single enough." That hit me like a bus.
That's never a good sign, guys. You're single enough. I'm guessing that he was married.
There was something going on because every time I tried to communicate with him, his phone was off.
Sure. Yeah.
Very limited ability to communicate with him, only text message. And of course, being through what that I had been through since 2014, everything that I had been through. And let me tell you, I got that PTSD, which I'd like to ask you about after this. Seeing all of these signs, I so very much wanted to tell him, listen, for those of us that fought our way out of a relationship like that, being abused mentally, physically, and whatnot, you give single people a really bad name, or you shouldn't. It's not fair for you to go out there and project yourself as single when it's pretty obvious that you are not.
Right.
But it's really crapping on those of us that actually fought our way out and actually earned the right to call ourselves single. Whether or not I'll get into another relationship again is very questionable.
So what happened? How did this relationship progress?
Actually, it didn't. I pretty much sent him a text saying, you know what, single people are a lot more available than you are. As many times as
Good.
you have tried to tell me that.
Good.
Yeah, I totally cut off the connection. Yeah,
because I could tell you right now, anytime somebody says that single enough, they're either neck deep involved in a relationship or married, and what that hints at, single enough, is that they will absolutely play if you're there to play, right? And it happens all the time, and a lot of times, and good for you for catching that. I'm glad you're here, right? So what you've done now is you actually have a good story. You're an encouragement to a lot of people here, because a lot of people have taken that route, taken that bait, so to speak, and gotten involved and taken the phone calls when they could have, gone out a couple times when they could have, and so you didn't, and that's good. I'm sure it wasn't easy. Especially being single, but it's good that you didn't, because you would be talking to me in a much different way right now, right? Had you have taken that bait,
right,
and really gone down a path and a route that you didn't want to go, that you didn't foresee, yourself being in. So
right, and all of that within ourselves, that instinct, that sixth sense. I love to call it that, because it really can guide you through all this murky water. And there was just this solemn feeling inside, saying, I just kept feeling that icky feeling of, how dare he call himself single? How dare he lie and just put himself out there as something that he is not? And they are relentless. Narcissistic people. I have to keep explaining to my brother, he's involved in a relationship like this, and thank God I went through what I went through, because I am now able to coach him. I showed him your videos and such, and I just don't see that, being able to coach somebody through this, it really does mean a lot. And
it's tough. Yeah, it is. Did you have a question about CPTSD as well?
I'm so glad. Yeah, I was kind of fixated on that. That's why I kind of lost my place. Sorry about that. The CPTSD, is that recognized by the American Psychological Association yet? And are you doing research? I understand that you might have a psychology educational background.
I have no psychology educational background. So
you should.
I have.
You should. This is something that's undocumented.
I have a master's in experience, and unfortunately, a lot more than I wish and I hope on anybody. But the CPTSD is, I know that there's PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder complex, added in there. Means that it's a lot of different factors. It's not necessarily related to one trauma. That the PTSD, post-traumatic based on a trauma, complex means that there's a lot of factors at play. And it's the best way to describe what happens with narcissistic abuse is the CPTSD, because there is a lot of factors that play. Everything from the gaslighting, the manipulation, to the triangulation, to the slow dripping effect of crushing you over time, belittling you, devaluing you, really just destroying your character, the character assassination, everything that I've talked about, made videos about. This all, and because it's so slow, and because it's in such small doses sometimes, it destroys you slowly over time. You slowly bleed out. And this is why it's complex post-traumatic stress disorder, because it's all trauma, but it's more of an accumulative trauma as opposed to one trauma. You know what I mean? You get in a bad car accident, boom. That's one big trauma that's going to cause you some issues over time. That's post-traumatic stress disorder. You get these little tiny cuts in your soul, right? Now all of a sudden you've got this hard to understand and figure out and process trauma that took place over a period of time. And so this is where we get into complex post-traumatic stress disorder. And so, no, I don't have a psychology background in this, but it makes sense to me. And it's the only thing that I could grab onto that made sense as to a lot of the hurt and a lot of the pain that I experienced myself personally, and a lot of people in the community have dealt with, where you can put a finger on it, but it's so many, you don't know which one is greater. You find yourself juggling between, well, this time this and that time that, and then he did this and there was that, and then and before you know it, you've got so much stuff, it's overwhelming, and you can really even lose focus if it came down to pointing out one thing that the person did that really hurts you. It's very difficult to do that, because it's really just the whole relationship, and at some point you just realize that. You're like, oh my gosh, it's everything about that person. It's a toxic relationship. Okay.
Unfortunately, people that have done time in the prison system, or people that are in the military, I found that both of those, what they're saying, the narcissistic personality comes out in both of those situations. Yeah. Especially the one that I had dealt with, he had done time cumulatively about 10 years in about 3 or 4 different visits. Mm-hmm. And what was interesting, it was around 2014 when my mom passed away, which made me completely distracted and completely starving for attention, affection, and distraction from the world, right? So it was easy to get wrapped up in all of his, I got to do this, I got to do that, I'm this, I'm that. And I was in nursing school at the time, and I actually let it go. And I found that after that, when we had gotten together, he screwed up every job that I had gotten after that. I mean, I would tell him not to show up at my work. He would show up at my work. Just ruined every opportunity that he possibly could for me. It was an annihilation. Like you said, it's not just the, the gaslighting and stuff, but there was a very tactical series of events that he played out to just totally ruin me with my family and everything. But the interesting thing is this. I wanted to make this point. After our son was born, he wouldn't even go to the hospital to sign for him on his birth certificate. And he knew. I called his parents and told them the situation. And I guess his mom, after I talked to his mom turned around and told him, "Oh my God, you kept her in the dark about everything. I almost want to have you committed because she has a completely different view, of you and of your life than what you really are." To the point where, I mean, he was, oh my gosh, a needle user.
Yeah.
That he kept totally hidden from me because from the very beginning, I told him that's a deal breaker. That's a deal breaker. And so he kept it totally hidden from me.
It's
but
a lot.
Most of all, after finding out, like, all of this, like, his ex had, he said, had 2 daughters, and I went on Facebook, found out that there was a son of his that looked just like him, like half him, half her.
Yeah.
I asked him about that. He denied it. I'm like, the pictures are right there. I just found them just a few months ago. I just barely confronted him about this just a few months ago. I haven't heard from him again. He tried to come back, right? Of course, every 6 months they come back into your life to try to remind you that they rejected you, right? And so, I was able to, like, oh, wow, now that I've got you on the line, I found this and this and this and this. How do you explain this? Still didn't admit to anything, even though pictures were obvious. But the big point, like I say, that I wanted to get to was that I told him, "You're a narcissist." Of course, he's saying, "No, I got out of the prison system and I was psychologically analyzed and I have nothing. I have no faults with my mental capability. I am not mentally ill in any way." And I told him, I said, "You know what?" I said, "I've done some research and you are a narcissist." And then he proceeded to gaslight me after that. I'm like, okay, now that is gaslighting. What's gaslighting? You need to look it up.
Yeah.
Okay, so about a year and a half after I told him to look it up, of course, he comes at me with all of this stuff all over again. I'm like, "Don't you remember I told you you were a narcissist?" He's like, "I don't even know what that is." I said, "You didn't look it up after a year and a half ago I told you to look it up."
Listen. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be rude here, but I don't want to. I want to keep it moving a little bit because we can go on forever about all the little tiny stories, and I would really like to open up the phone line. I would really like to open up the phone line for another caller. So
the point is that they won't admit that they have faults, so he still didn't know what a narcissist was.
All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you so much.
I appreciate you letting me vent.
All righty. Thank you for calling. Bye.
Have a wonderful night. Bye.
You too. All right, guys. Yeah, I'm going to open up the phone line. We'll take one more telephone call before we wrap it up for the night. And I do have some announcements before we take a phone call. There's a couple of different changes you're going to see underneath this video in the description box, some things that I'm excited about talking to you about. One is you'll notice in the description box I've got a bunch of stuff, including videos that are listed out. There is some merchandise. So if any of you are wondering how you can help the Royal We continue on and what we're doing and spreading the message, there's obviously donations that you can make, and there is a PayPal donation link in the description box. There's also merchandise, and I encourage you to check out the merchandise and let me know what you think of the logo and all of that stuff for the Royal We. There's t-shirts, there's women's t-shirts, men's t-shirts, coffee mugs, hoodies, and I'm pretty excited about that. So definitely check that out. Look in the description box. You'll also see links to the course and really revamping, and I put a lot of time and effort into revamping the whole description box. of these videos. So be sure to check out the description box below and check out some of these links. All right, guys, and we're going to go ahead and take this final call from Colorado. Thank you for calling. You're live on the Royal We.
Hi, Kevin.
Hi.
Thanks for thanks for all you do. A lot of people, I'm sure you've thrown out the life raft too, and we're doing better. I wanted to talk about triangulation a bit, or whatever you want. I was taken care of by someone in a church who took care of a lot of women that we went to doctor's appointments and things you had, procedures, you could not drive, that I thought was safe. And but I found that I thought I was safe, but I found a lot of I think you call it cognitive dissonance.
Mm-hmm.
And I would call things out or say something to myself like, I'm not the prettiest girl, but I've had smoke blown off my skirt lots of times. And it was kind of pathetic, the attempt to try and make me feel important. But I hadn't any choice, and I was told that this deacon was one assigned, and certain people were assigned in the small church to certain deacons to help, and elders did other things. Because I said, I think I'll get somebody else. Because you're so busy, and it was quite abusive verbally. I was pretty okay when I met this person, but I kept giving them the benefit of the doubt. Because as Christians, we're taught, you forgive.
Mm-hmm.
If you're in church a long time, you're taught not just if you forgive, you don't judge, which isn't true.
Right.
And you're also taught, okay, and if you've come out of not being in a church, and then you find the Lord Jesus, and then you're trying to do that walk, where you've been. And so you're really given, they're just earlier in their maturation process, and so you just keep, thinking it's going to get better, and you keep throwing out your light, and you keep throwing out forgiveness.
Right.
It's a really good place for people to hide.
Yes,
it's a really good place for serious narcissists to hide.
Yes, it is.
And because
I've actually made a couple of videos on that as well. Right.
I saw one for sure.
Yeah, narcissistic abuse in the church, and I talked about this because there are a lot of narcissists in the church. A lot of pastoral staff is narcissists, and so really what it comes down to when it comes to church and your faith, and this is what I've learned too, is that you really need to understand. You need to, first of all, we need to be in the Word. If you're going to be going to church, if you're going to call yourself a Christian, you should probably pick up that thing called the Bible, dust it off, and open the pages and see what it says, and let the words, because if you believe and you're a Christian, then you believe that the Word of God is a living, breathing Word, and it's going to fill you, and it's going to give you some insight. And as I look at the Bible now, I see a totally different message than what I got in church, which is a lot like what you got. Well, just be loving and blow kisses and sunshine and sprinkle heaven all over everything, everywhere you go. And that's not what the Bible says. The Bible is more filled with, don't throw your pearls before swine. Don't hang out with these people. Don't associate with those people. And it's all in there for us to see, but we've got to break and deconstruct this modern Christianese way of, just be with people, let them do whatever they want, and don't judge them. That's a very, millennial kind of what you see going on today. Right? Don't judge me. I'm don't judge. Don't do any. It's I can do and say whatever I want, and that's very much the narcissistic life right there. I can call you whatever name. I can cuss at you, and I got God on my side because, I just do.
Okay.
And it could be very It could be very hurtful. It could be very hurtful. I've come across this in my own life. It was very confusing, and I'm just left just in awe. And, by these people, because they'd say, we have the same beliefs. And by the way, you're ignorant, idiot, stupid, all these things. And I'm like, whoa, Are you sure we read the same Bible? And so that's when I had to go back and read the Bible again, and it says, don't hang out with these people. Don't associate with them. It tells you some good, solid advice. If somebody's causing problems, try to approach them. If that doesn't work, bring an elder, bring somebody else to approach them. If that doesn't work, bring two of them. And if they're still kind of not, if no one's listening, then get the heck away from them. You don't belong there. It's not your people. That's not your person. And so just cut that relationship short. Right?
Yeah, not your people. And the thing is, I went somewhere that I could walk to because I'm now almost bedridden.
Yeah.
And the whole church is really infected. And I actually got triangulated, not knowing it.
Right.
You know, from the very beginning, things were being said. You know, she's crazy. She's a drug addict. You know, she's insane.
Right.
And did not have a clue. Just thought, boy, you know, this is a really immature church. You know, how come these people aren't growing? There's a bunch of white-haired people. And, you know, felt like pulling an elephant through mud. But I also, you know, there's the other side that I think gets us, which is that we have to be salt and light. But I think that after being in a small church where it's very, very inundated with a certain belief, and people would not, they didn't share. They didn't ever let their mask down. They did not ever share problems. They did not ever call you if you were ill.
Right.
And you get close to people. If you're somebody like me, you go for, you know, let's take off the masks and be real. I did, you know, have to lead everybody. One family I call, they have a daughter that's like 22, 24. And I call them once in a while when I know she's sick or struggling, and they send me a card now and then. But I was pretty healthy, and I went to the Word of God. He defined me. He said who I was, according to him. I was real healthy when I met this person. I was like, you know, like, and it's still just being around it and just being told these things and just being lied to in such insidious ways, you know, that you just it actually can affect you even if you are really healthy.
Right.
So.
Well, thank you. Well, listen, I thank you for calling. I want to go ahead and wrap it up because we are over time.
Yeah, God bless you and everybody.
I appreciate it.
There is hope.
Thank you. Appreciate your encouraging words.
Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, guys, we'll go ahead and wrap it up there. We did have some good conversations tonight. I appreciate the callers. I'm not trying to be rude if I'm trying to wrap it up, but we really can because we all have a lot of stories to talk about, and a lot of these situations, and there's so many of them. Like I said, when we talk about CPTSD, it is a result of a combination of a complex trauma, small little cuts. And so we can sometimes get into this phase of going and talking, and it's good if we want to reach out and try to identify all the little things as we go back in our mind and remember, you know, this and that, and how can they do this and how can they do that. What I would encourage you to do, just as a community, this is something that I've done, and it's something that I encourage you to do in the course. So I'm going to go ahead and plug the course in here. Part 3 of the course, the 3rd module, actually, we go over this, and it's called an inventory. I include an inventory in it, and I outline how to do it. And the purpose of the inventory is to get all of that out, go back as far as you can in the relationship, and deal with these little details. Get them all out, write them out, and so you can look at them. And in the course, I help you to resolve these in the inventory, okay? And so one of the things I want to keep on this program is I'd like to keep it moving. So when we're wrapping it up, it's not, you know, because it does matter what you say. It's not that you don't matter. It's just that we need to keep it moving, and we don't have necessarily the time in the 30 minutes here to go over all of the details of the things that we can recall. All right. And so I want to thank you guys for being a part of the Royal We tonight. I want to thank you guys for the telephone calls. And I do want to encourage you, once again, check out the description box below because there's a lot of new stuff going on in the description box. Oh, and by the way, yes, I did shave. I saw a comment on there. Kevin, where's the beard? I know. It's gone. Shaved it. I know I look different. I know. You'll get used to it. I promise. But do check out the description box. You will see the merchandise link. You'll also see some video links. You'll see the course link. Hopefully, I've laid out everything in the description box nice and easy. I've even defined narcissistic abuse down there for you. So if you are having questions about narcissistic abuse, what it is, if you're really experiencing it, any of that stuff, check out some of the stuff in the description box. All right, guys, I want to thank you. And I look forward to being with you tomorrow. So if you did not if you were not able to get on the phone tonight with me, then call tomorrow. We will be starting at 10 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time. And I look forward to being with you guys then. Until then, have a great night, everybody. And we'll see you tomorrow right here on the Royal We. I really should have some music on my way out, but I do not right now. But we'll get there.